Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today it's time for another client lesson update, and this is for many people out there, their favorite segment, because I have a lot of people here who are personal trainers, people who are coaches, and even people who maybe you're trying to coach or train friends or family members, other people who are trying to get into training, who've been training a while themselves, even though training isn't something they do as any sort of career. So there's a lot of people on here who watch this who do that, a lot of other coaches on here. Same thing with my client list. I have, at any given time, a minimum of 4 people who are personal trainers or coaches on my client list. I have 4 at the moment. I've had more. So one of the things that I note when working with clients, and it's advice I can give a lot of people, and this is going to be slightly controversial in a lot of circles, but in other circles it isn't. That's the funny thing. That this is normal in many, many, many coaching circles and schools of thought. And that's the idea that we need 1 rep maxes and we need AMREPs, or a combination of the two, in order to gauge where our clients are. And I would also argue that we need 1 rep maxes to build confidence. And it's something that I've noted that someone like Jason Leonards, my friend, does with his private facility. He coaches the general population, yet he has grandmothers and housewives maxing on the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, and then the trap bar deadlift. So those are his 4 lifts he maxes people on. And he has his entire client base, his entire gym do this, and everyone's maxes are tracked. There's a board with everyone's maxes on it. So everyone who trains there knows what every other person's best max is. And I think that's a phenomenal way to do things. It's phenomenal. Now, before you get people who jump in and say, well, they're not worth it, they're dangerous. Maxes are not dangerous. You guys watch me. How often do I hit a training max or a true max every week? 8 times a week on camera. I'm in my 40s, guys. Now, granted, not everyone's moving the weight I'm moving, but because I did a 600-pound squat this week. So that's heavy weight. Do you honestly think that if you've built a client up and built their abs up, built their core up, built their low back up a little bit, and that you've taught them decent form, you're telling me they can't max out? Relatively rare for lifters to get hurt on maxing. And any strains that I've generally had with my lifters on maxing has tended to be the bench press. And it tends to be not the close grip either. I have had guys train pecs. Every one of them bench over 300 pounds though. Every one of them push themselves super hard. But they've all come back. Every one of them who've done it have bounced back and hit new PRs. It's not like these were debilitating injuries. But the point being that maxes from injuries, like injuries on 1 rep maxes in properly programmed training, are very rare. If you can't program people to max, you're probably not a good coach. And I don't care about the arguments for, well, for hypertrophy training. What are you talking about? We should all be getting stronger. Hypertrophy is part of the strength game anyways. Everyone who is trying to maximize strength is also trying to maximize hypertrophy. It's required. So that sort of silly nonsense argument needs to go away, and then people will say, well, I'm a competitive bodybuilder. Well, fine. A lot of competitive bodybuilders can still max out, but you're not my target demographic. Competitive bodybuilders are so small of a niche that they couldn't even fill my channel up. There aren't that many of them. I seriously doubt that there's 100,000 competitive bodybuilders on Earth. Right? There are more than 100,000 athletes in the world in various sports who benefit from strength. And let's come over to the point with my clients. My guys who play tennis and golf see their maxes carry over to their tennis and golf game. All my West Coast guys who make 6 figures, they all play golf or tennis. All of them. They see carryover. The maxes improve their sports they do even recreationally. Right? Should be maxing out. Maxes allow us to determine what we need to do on all of our other lifts. If we max on a variety of different lifts, we know how to program all of our percentages. Also, even on lifts that we don't max, we can assess how much weight we need to be working towards on supplemental lifts. In other words, if you know what your max box squat is, we have a real good idea of what strength standards to hit for a good morning if you don't have one max. I don't have anyone max on a good morning who can't at least hit well up into the 300s for a max. Right now, my weakest 1 rep max good morning on any lifters that I allow to do the good morning is 375. But the point being, we can assess where we need to be. We could look at our deadlift and have a good idea of what we need to be doing on a glute bridge. If you're a good coach and you coach enough lifters, you figure this out very quickly. We can look at our bench and have a good idea of how much we should be able to pen lay row strictly. All right, there's some ratios there that we start looking for, and we can start setting benchmarks to move towards. But if we don't know our maxes, we're stuck with silly things like rate of perceived exertion. And I'm not a fan of RPE training. It can produce laziness. It can produce sandbagging, and I've watched it happen. I've seen my own lifters when I give them that sort of ambiguity, it runs into problems. You need to be telling your lifters how much weight to lift. And how you feel doesn't matter. How you feel that day doesn't matter. If you're having that weak of a day, you need to go home. You need to go home, get more food, get more sleep. And as a coach, if you're having lifters who are having bad days where they need a different RPE, you might need to adjust their training volume. There's something wrong. All right, and the same thing with AMREP sets. AMREPs will tell us, because again, we have all these 1 rep max calculators and 1 rep max charts. This is how we know how to program percentages off of maxes. That way we're ensuring effective reps. AMREPs do the same thing. And AMREPs can be used even for people in home gyms right now who don't have enough weight. A perfect example, one of my girls, she doesn't have enough weights to hit her max deadlift in her home gym. Her country has been locked down a couple different times since I've been coaching her. She has a home gym, and then she goes to the normal gym, and then she actually a trainer at that gym. But the issue that she runs into, she has a limited number of weight. She has enough to do her max squat. She doesn't have enough weights at home to do the max deadlift. So when her max deadlift days come around, what do you think we do? We take all the weight that she has and we do an AMREP. Now she ended up getting 7 the other day. 7 with the weight she had, which I didn't expect. I was predicting 4. But she managed to grind out 7. That tells us a lot about where someone's maxes are. The same thing can be done for the rep work or on exercises we don't have maxes on, MREPs. Okay, in other words, we could estimate, well, you could try to do sets of 10 on the weighted dip or the weighted chin up, 1 in reserve, and then MREP the 3rd set. Then we know how far off the weight was. Okay, if you can do 10, 10, and then you can do 13, well, they're sandbagging on the weight. They're not getting many effective reps. We also can just AMREP every set on movements like that. I mean, realistically, if you're only doing 3 sets of weighted chin-ups, you could take them to failure. All your small exercises can be taken to failure. Curl to tricep extension. We can do those to failure, right? There's no inherent risk to it. We're not going to get excessive overtraining, and we shouldn't be doing large amounts of those anyways. They should have a niche role in our training, but we take them to failure. But AMREP sets, which stands for as many reps as possible. Basically, you take the set all the way out till either form breakdown on a big lift or failure. Like a squat, you may not want to go to failure, but that one that you grind and your form breaks down, right, that's your AMREP. Deadlift, of course, you can just take it till it sticks on the floor. So, AMREPs, and we can do the same thing to assess when it's time to PR on a big lift again. Because a lot of times your lifters will sandbag. Now you can use video and you can time their lifts to tell if they're sandbagging. You can tell by how fast a bar moves if that lifter really hit a max or not. No matter how they felt. Throw this ambiguity away. How you feel doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. So, we can do this with their other lifts. Again, if you're working at 3x5 at 80% of your max and you AMREP the 3rd set, what ends up happening? Well, we know that we got maximum training response from that set, but we also can assess if it's time to PR or not. We can look at how many reps we can get on that 3rd set and look back over and say, might be time to PR there again. Because even if, say, we're benching or doing pressing work, we're probably rotating through our different bench whips. If they don't have bars and chains, we're using different benches. But we can test certain ones, and we can look for the strength increase, right? We can do others for rep work, whether it's a close grip or a floor press or whatever they're doing. We can look at that MRep and we can tell, hey, their pressing strength is up. We should probably hit a new PR on this lift if we're going to work percentages off of it. Okay, these are valuable feedback tools. Yes, they have a training response, and anyone who doesn't understand that they have a training response is an idiot. You can disregard them. They have no business coaching. And if they have no business coaching, they have no business discussing fitness or giving training advice to anyone else. Right? Therefore, they shouldn't even be involved in an argument. You can ignore them. But these give us valuable feedback. Now, we could talk about the psychological benefits, and I've done plenty of videos of that on maxing and confidence building. But these are all valuable tools that you as a coach can use to program your lifters to ensure that they move forward. And some people say, well, what if they are sandbagging on the maxes? If you program off of a max that's 20 pounds too light, you will ensure that they're strong enough to PR next time that they do it by programming off of it. Even if they don't gain any strength, they will have preserved 100% of their strength and gotten more experience under the bar before they max on that lift again. They'll be physically capable of PRing. Even if they sandbag that lift for a year straight, a year from now, if you keep just programming off of it, they will still be strong enough to hit a new PR. So it's an inherent self-correcting system if you know how to properly program percentages for your volume training off of the maxes. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.